Detonator for PS2 game was published by Kadokawa Shoten Publishing Company Limited in Japan and Midas Interactive Entertainment Limited in what seems to be the United Kingdom only. God save the Queen for allowing Midas to release this game despite them already having a shadowy and mysterious past, releasing some real shithole shovelware.
That's Phoenix Games. You thinking about, bro?
Weren't they both run by the same people?
The game was developed by folks called K's Company Limited. Also, it is known as Bualbaku in Japan. How kawaii is that?
You know what also is kawaii? Finding a comprehensive description of the gameplay on Moby Games. For some reason, our human caregiver and sugar daddy fucking hates writing these up.
You know what also is kawaii? Finding a comprehensive description of the gameplay on Moby Games. For some reason, our human caregiver and sugar daddy fucking hates writing these up. Detonator is a puzzle game in which the player must destroy buildings with dynamite.
Each building consists of a series of maps or stages, in which the player must place and detonate blocks of dynamite. On the left of the screen is a menu showing the shapes of charge available. The player can scroll up stroke down this list with the square and circle buttons. Once a charge type has been selected, the player places it in position with the D-pad buttons using the R1 button to rotate where necessary. They then use the cross button to detonate the charge. All blocks within the stage that are covered by the charge are damaged, as are all blocks that are adjacent to both the charge on one side and another damaged block on the other. The object being to damage all the blocks with the amount of dynamite and turns specified for the stage. When all stages in a building have been completed, the player is treated to a video sequence of the demolition, and the next building is unlocked.
As far as I know, Detonator is a totally unique puzzle game, and the sort of title the term hidden gem was conceived for. I went through the credits of several of this game's key creatives, and could not find any sort of progenitor or anything which could be seen as the estranged father of this game. Detonator seems to be centered around a formula that is completely its own. You could draw some comparisons to Tetris, maybe, with its rotating block mechanic, but even that would be a stretch to say.
What isn't a stretch to say though is that Detonator is an immensely addictive and satisfying puzzle game. Double the amount of footage from this game was captured for this review than normal due to not only how fun Detonator was to play, but also how engrossing it was to see and hear it in action.
Art director Masayuki Tosaka really knocked it out of the freaking park with this one and brought a lot of character to Detonator with his approach. No doubt inspired by the minimalist presentation of Intelligent Cube for the PS1. I tell you what Intelligent Cube didn't have, and that was sepia-toned full motion video of skyscrapers getting demolished or full polygon animations of buildings you, the player and destroyer of concrete worlds, have rigged up to blow. Everything from the glittery user interface to the grey and barren vistas within the demolition cutscenes is balls deep in how great it is. Minimalist. Good vibes. Some of the best presentation that I have ever seen from a PS2 game, let alone from a Midas Games release.
Detonator also has a soundtrack that is absolutely fantastic, so fantastic that Kotaku even devoted an entire article to it. Now, this is the part where I make some derogatory comment towards this specific video game journalism thing. Why? But I haven't given a fuck about what a mainstream video game website has to say about anything since like 2011. And I guess I should be proud of that fact. Nonetheless, some amount of people still visit these fucking websites, and they're significant enough to make an article someone wrote about Detonator worthy.
Anyway, with that awfulness out of the way, the game's composer, whom the Kotaku article couldn't fucking bother to mention, is called Yusuke Takahama. My god, I think I'm in love with the soundtrack of Detonator. That is, of course. Being serious now, Takahama's music credits are unfortunately quite obscure. Since looking up footage for PS1 RPG Mireminoid has shown me that Takahama is committed to creating an ethereal, haunting soundscape when given the freedom to do so. I never thought I would feel so melancholic whilst playing a puzzle game, but here we are. 10 on fucking 10. An amazing score. Yusuke Takahama. Carve his name with pride on the tree in the forest behind your house you used to hump your $500 sex doll up against because your mum is starting to think the squeaking coming from your room at night is actually mice. And boy howdy, will she wish she had found rodents instead of the cheap-ass Chinese sex toys that spy on you with microcameras whilst you do it. Also, most likely made by enslaved Muslims in some 46 Celsius warehouse that was built in 1926 to commemorate the 1000th school teacher that was hacked to death with meat cleavers in that region alone. Anyway, what was I saying? Ah yes. Yusuke Takahama is a very gifted composer whose likeness a friend of mine once printed onto a body pillow. Get help, my friend.
Puzzle formulas unique, I think.
Good news is true news on that one. Detonator really deserved to push more units. Not helped by this silly little cover for the PAL release that looks like promotional material for an early 2000s game show that Channel 4 would not even be desperate enough to fucking greenlight.
Ah yes, Channel 4, another reason why Margaret Thatcher's 21-gun salute should have aimed at the coffin.
Can't hurt to be sure. Neoliberals are after all very vampiric in their nature.
True that.
Fascism is worse though, yeah?
Yes, Dan, fascism is worse. Why do you feel the need to remind us this fact every other opportunity you get? I am surprised it took this long to get into one of these retro video game reviews. We are all doing together as a collective.
Communism is just fascism though with a coat of red paint on its bonds. In it.
You know who would say that? A neoliberal.
Mates, once again I find myself bringing you back into this fucking review. I mean, conting fuck. This is getting annoying.
Don't you love it though?
What? Feeling like a young Ned Flanders, as he sits in the back seat whilst his parents bicker and complain at each other about how they have done nothing and are all out of ideas?
Jesus Christ. We should just make a fucking politics podcast at this point.
Okay, we're getting back to the review.
Phew, just in time to finish the damn thing.
You would have to be a right mug to not get Detonator for the PS2. It is dirt cheap and hands down one of the best puzzle games on the console. In our humble opinion, it has great mechanics, great vibes and deeply uncanny robotic voices that make you feel both comforted and alienated at the same time.
Ha, imagine such a thing. Until next, farewell, our dear friends.
Your mission is clear.